I think we can all agree that plants are pretty cool. Plants support us in so many ways that it is impossible to list them all. To put it simply, without plants, we would not exist. Perhaps the most common way we see its importance is through the consumption of plants to live. But I'm not here to tell you about all that mumbo jumbo about how plants use photosynthesis to make energy for us to live. Instead, I'm going to tell you about what happens to plant life after death and how this natural process of decomposition can be used to save the world. Composting. Now, there are probably 3 types of people out there I'm talking to right now. 1, you have no idea what composting is. 2, you know somewhat what composting is, and you have a general idea of what the process is. Or 3, you know exactly what composting is and even compost yourself. Whatever stage you are at, it is always important to know the basics of composting. I have been composting for over a year now, and it took me a year to refine my process. So even if you may think you're a master at composting, it is always important to better your process and go over the basics. Remember when I said plant decomposition? That's basically what composting is. Composting is the creation of a suitable environment for plant matter to decompose into nutrient-rich soil. This suitable environment is the perfect balance of nutrients, moisture, and air for microorganisms to break down the dead plant matter. But how do you get from plants to a dirt-like mushy substance that is compost? Well, instead of going through all that work and making a video about how to compost, I think there's something online that could help us. So let's see here. How to compost. All right. Let's see here. Okay. 8 minutes. That's kind of 6 minutes. 5 minutes. 27 minutes? What? 4 minutes? Okay. What? 16 minutes? These are so long. No one has time for these videos. If only there was a video that taught you how to compost in a shorter amount of time. Step 1, reserve an area for your compost. Either find a place you can pile your plant waste outside or a container to put your plant waste inside. Make sure it has holes in it. Step 2, make sure you have browns and greens for your compost. Browns are plant material that look brown, like dead leaves, wood chips, or coffee grounds. Greens are plant materials that look green and colorful, like apple cores, banana peels, or grass clippings. Step 3, make sure to have a roughly equal ratio of browns to greens in your compost. Browns give carbon to the compost and greens give nitrogen to the compost. This allows the microbes responsible for composting to thrive. Step 4, make sure to cut up your compost into digestible parts for the bacteria. Step 5, put it all together. Step 6, make sure to rotate and aerate your compost 2 to 3 times a week. This will allow oxygen to flow through all the compost and create a better environment for the decomposers. Step 7, wait. Step 8, make sure to enjoy your compost by spreading it around your plants and using it as fertilizer. But how can this save the world? First, composting removes the necessity of a garbage can when it comes to food. 133 billion pounds of food waste are created every year in the United States. According to the United Nations, 80% of the food we eat are plants. So let's assume that 80% of the food we waste are also plants. With some simple math, we could be removing 106 billion pounds of organic matter from giant dumps of garbage if we composted all of the plant waste. This will return nutrients back to the soil and spur more plant growth and those plants can be composted. Did you hear the word throw away yet? This composting cycle is endless. This reduces the need for fertilizers made in factories and reduces potent greenhouse gases released by the breakdown of organic matter in landfills. But I would be an irresponsible AP Environmental Science student and an AP Comp student if I didn't address the negatives of composting. One negative of composting is that it is not the same as throwing away food. The tradition of throwing away rotten tomatoes or potatoes is first nature to us, so implementing a new tradition for waste disposal takes the effort of breaking a lifelong habit. Also, composting is not that widespread. The EPA found that only 4.1% of food is actually composted, and we produce a lot of waste. So there's not enough composting facilities or piles to keep up with the amount of waste we're creating. Lastly, it is kind of hard to compost. As I said before, it took me an entire year to figure out I was composting wrong. Some people just don't want to compost because it takes too long, or they don't know how to do it. So there's many factors that play into composting, and just saying start composting is not enough to see how composting can impact the world. We have certainly buried ourselves under human food waste, but plants have given us a way out. Composting reduces the volume of trash created and reuses nutrients kept in wasted plant material to spur more plant growth. But can we really trust composting to hold the weight of 1 billion pounds of trash? Well, maybe not 1 billion pounds, but maybe a couple 100 pounds. The Environmental Club and I are trying to get composting in the high school next year. And since you guys learned about all the benefits and negatives of composting, what would you guys think? Would you want to do this? I have already asked Mr. Stemnowski for permission, so please scan the QR code on the screen to answer a few questions about composting at our school. We do not want to change how you enjoy lunch because we want to compost, so please give us your feedback. I hope you enjoyed this video as much as I had fun making it. I hope it taught you a little bit more what composting is and whether you should give it a try. Remember, you could go as hardcore as making your own compost bin or as simple as just throwing plant waste outside. Either way, everyone, including me, including plants, will thank you. Speaking of composting,